And welcome to another episode of Explode, your expert business show. And today I'm here with the one and only Rosie Di Lecce. How you doing, Rosie?
Hi Simone, how you doing? Doing okay? You?
I'm really well, thank you very much. We started this conversation in Italian before, where we were behind the scene here, and we started laughing, probably because of accents. I'm very bad with accents, I know. Um, but
It was a good conversation,
it
people.
was a well, if you think so, I trust you. But anyway, let's move on. Let's start with the topic of the day, which is about emotional copywriting. But before we go into that, Rosie, what's your background? Why did you get into copywriting and in particular emotional copywriting?
It's a long way to be honest. It started all with, I guess, just like a passion for languages and a passion for English. So I taught myself English when I was 7 or 8, and that was through music. And I was very excited about it. And then I just started kind of nurturing this passion for languages, and then that turned into passion for writing.
Hmm.
And then I went on to university, and actually I studied something that was related to this, which was linguistic mediation and cultural mediation. And it was very interesting because it gave me a different understanding of how language and communication work.
Hmm.
And then after that, I moved actually away from Italy. I moved to the Netherlands and I started working in marketing as a content marketeer. So at that point, I was developing this new skill, which was marketing. But at the
Hmm.
same time, I would still keep on writing and I could still use this background in languages and cultures to actually create something that was unique.
Hmm.
That, of course, put together with a talent for writing, kind of turned me into a copywriter. And that was the beginning of it. It was very accidental in a way because I had no clue what I was doing. But then through my career, I actually developed into a copywriter.
Hmm.
And and that was for me such a great moment, to understand that actually I was a copywriter because I could put together my passion for writing, my skills, in languages, and at the same time, this creative note, and also a little bit my natural talent
Hmm.
for selling. So I thought, wow, this is a perfect combination for me. And that's how I became a copywriter.
I'm just curious about one thing because we're both from Italy, so we
Yeah.
both had to learn to read, write, and speak into different language, which in this
Yeah.
case is English. And I remember when I started writing copies and starting understanding marketing. Oh my God, it was such a pain for me. Not in particular for the language barrier. So, how did you? Was it easy for you adapting to write at a very high level in a different language, or was it difficult? How did you live that?
I guess it was easy because of my, again, like of that sort of passion for English. Well, I say passion, it was more like an obsession. So I
Okay.
was obsessed with England. I was obsessed with London. I was obsessed with having a British boyfriend, basically, that was in a band or something like that. So basically, yeah, that was me at 15. So basically, I started writing very, very early on. And every time that I had the chance, I would always find a native speaker of some sort and just ask them to actually check whatever I was
Hmm.
writing. So already when I was 14 or 15, I had this level of grammar that was not average, for
Hmm.
Italy. So actually, I
Yeah,
had also a
yeah.
little bit of an issue in school because at one point I had a teacher that would punish me by giving me a lower grade because she said that I was doing things that were not according to the course. They
Uh,
were just like a higher level.
yes,
So
yes, yes.
that I think just kind of prepared me for it. And then from there, I just developed more and more. So it became very, very easy to then take that and just turn it into something professional.
Ah, that's brilliant. That's brilliant. So, tell us a bit more about what you're doing now. What are your projects that you're working on at the moment?
Okay, so I currently not only do copywriting for my clients, but I also do copywriting and persuasive content coaching. So I am currently working with a few clients that want to learn how to shape their communication better, how to find their voice, how to have a strong message, and how to, they want to understand how to use basically emotional copywriting in their business.
Hmm.
And that's probably right now one of the most exciting parts of my work because it gives me the chance to work with very different people and have great interactions with great entrepreneurs that makes me happy. And also just to see somebody go from lacking the sort of skill of copywriting and then go and become this person that understands very well how to be persuasive and how to leverage their emotional intelligence to actually make sales. So that's for me right now the most interesting thing. Of course, I also work in copywriting with bigger brands, and that's also fun, of course. And I can now talk a lot about the kind of clients that I work with, agreements,
Disclaimer and NDAs, and otherwise they will let to see someone and kill you probably. So
maybe like a ninja coming into my room right now or something. So yeah.
Right, so it's really fascinating. I believe that copywriting is a skill that every entrepreneur must have, because is not only related to the written language but also to the spoken language. I'm obsessed, as you know, about sales conversion, and that's why I went into copywriting. Not necessarily because I like writing. Actually, as you know, I will happily give it away when I can. But I give it away to you when I can. But when it was so crucial for me to understand it, because otherwise, if I don't have that skill, I will always be relying on someone else, even to send a persuasive email or to get someone to buy from me. And so I understood the importance of these skills. So we're talking about emotional copywriting. What is emotional copywriting?
So emotional copywriting is a concept that I came up with a while ago when I realized that copywriting, the way that it was intended, it's always been something that had to trigger some sort of emotion in people. But at one point, because of, this whole surge of the new economy and the gig economy and everybody starting a business, basically copywriting was becoming something extremely salesy and extremely spammy in a way, very badly written, and emotions were completely left out. And if emotions were in a copy, then it was mostly negative. So at one point, through my experience, I started to think more about this, and I thought, well, there must be another way of doing it. And the other way of doing it was, again, to tap into that emotional layer and to turn it into something positive, first of all, for the audience, but specifically to go even deeper. So I always say I think about the problem or the challenge of the audience, then the emotion that they feel that is connected to that, and then I take it one step further. What is really the emotion behind that problem? And that's what really makes it powerful, because we can all say, oh, okay, my business is failing, so I am frustrated. But what is really the feeling or the emotion behind that frustration? What is the people are really fearing? Is it failure? Is it something else? Is it that they feel then unhappy? They feel worthless? What is it really? So once that you get to that understanding, that's when you can create copy that is actually emotionally strong and that is going to convert for you.
So is really understanding the emotion behind the problem or the frustration, because I think you mentioned something here. They find that there are a lot of copywriting and a lot of copies and sales pages that they really trigger a lot of negative emotion, and there is a lot of negativity, almost like triggered in a sense of guilt to get someone to buy. And the curious thing I have is that because emotions are so powerful, in particular negative emotions are so powerful, is that like, where is the right balance? Does it work? Does it still work, really putting on a lot of negative emotions? Is it something that we should do? Is it something that we shouldn't do? What's your take on that?
I think it depends, of course, on also the product and the industry and all of that. But there has to be, or there can be, a balance between the two. Of course, sometimes negative emotions can work, but people are starting to see through it. And that's more the problem in a way. As in, people are becoming more and more aware of these marketing techniques. And they don't want to feel that you're fooling them. They don't want to feel bullied into buying something. They don't want to have regret after doing it. So you can still leverage a little bit of that negative emotion. But the most important thing is that when you're writing copy, you talk clearly about that dream outcome and that great feeling that they will have after that they have bought your product, your service, or whatever that might be. So you can still touch on that negative feeling, because it's still needed sometimes to have that sort of before-after effect, But it's something that shouldn't be the main focus in a copy, because that's when people are just going to sift through it and they're going to feel very off about it. If you have something that is very negative, you just kind of leave your reader with that feeling of, my God, my life is gonna end and I don't know what to do and I don't have money to buy this and oh my God, the world is ending. So that's not gonna really work, is it?
Yeah, absolutely. So now I have a question regarding people that don't like, or maybe they're quite new, because we have two kind of people listening to our podcast. We have someone who's pretty new and they're starting out, and then we have the expert that's been in business now for many years and now they're looking for the next level of skills. So before we are talking to the next level of skills and more the details of copywriting, for the people that are a bit new to this kind of word and to copy, and they say, oh my God, I don't have a really clue of where to start. I mean, I can open the page, I can open my Word document on my laptop, and then all I can see are like birds flying around and a blank page, and I cannot really put down any word. So if someone is at that stage, what is your recommendation? Where is the starting point?
Hire somebody to do it for you. No. If you can, that's the best. If you can't, that's also okay. Actually, as you said before, I think that everybody should learn the minimum skills of copywriting, you know. So what they can do is, first of all, remove that sort of fear about writing. There is nothing so great or so precious about writing. We all can write. It's just a matter of knowing what to do. And so first of all, remove that sort of block, because it's a mental block as well, you know. Just remove that. And the second thing is really focus on exactly what I was saying. Really focus on who's your audience. What kind of clients do you have? What is really their challenge and what is it they are feeling? So try and get that sort of understanding, and then just go ahead and really start typing and go for it. Because I think that a lot of people eventually will, you know, if they actually give writing a try, they will realize, okay, actually this is not that bad. And then it's just a matter of tweaking and understanding how to leverage that emotional pull in a way, or that emotional layer to what you're doing. So, and really try not to think in terms of, I really need to make a sale through whatever I'm writing, but actually just think, okay, what can I do today that will impact, or what can I write today that will impact my audience? If you think about it that way, then you will naturally give them a solution to their problem. You will be much more prone to deliver value as well, because that's something that has to be there, and it will just happen. You know, it's a matter of just getting started, and then you can always learn more, read more. You can follow different copywriters online right now. There is always, you know, I always share a lot of value on my Facebook. So there is so much information out there. So it's always something that you can learn and get better at.
There is a couple of words I would love to share about for these people that have this kind of, as you said, this block, or they think that what they put out is not good enough, or there are a lot of spelling mistakes. I mean, listen, you probably are opening, if you're listening to this show, maybe you're opening some of my emails, reading some of my social media posts. I always have someone commenting on a spelling mistake that I make, but I'm not an English teacher. So that's the point I want everyone to understand. I'm not an English teacher, and English grammar is not what makes me money. English grammar is important when you're writing like important sales pages. I agree with you. In fact, I have someone that proofreads all the pages, or when you are creating, the pages are perfect. But for the content that you're putting out there, even if there are some mistakes, that's okay. I mean, the content with some mistake is better than no content at all.
Exactly.
If that's one of your blocks, and then the more you write and the better you become. And also there is a tool, there are different tools that you can use to help you with a grammar check as well. So we can talk about at the end. So now you started conversation, so still around the emotional side of it. And that's something that someone who's starting out can think, well, but I have an idea of my ideal clients, but how do I know, or how do I start the process of understanding what emotions are they feeling? Is that something that you do, Rosie, when you are writing for someone to help them make sure that you actually write about the right emotions and the right thing, instead of just, maybe I think this is what they're feeling?
Well, first of all, just talk to your audience. That's the best thing that you can do. So if you have already clients, I always say to my own clients, well, get on the phone with those people. Just put out some post that says, I need to talk to this kind of people, and just actually talk to them and try to understand their frustration. So that will help you because it's going to remove that sort of guess factor. So you don't need to say, oh, maybe it's this, maybe it's that. Just actually talk to them, first of all. The other thing that I do, and this is actually something that yesterday my client told me, is that I keep on asking, but why? So if somebody's feeling this way, or if somebody has a certain problem, why is that? And why are they feeling that way? So always question whatever that challenge might be for your audience and try to understand really deeply, but why? Again, I'm going to go back to that example of, I am a business owner, my business is not doing well, I want to improve. So if you're selling business strategy, services, or whatever, always ask your audience, okay, but why are they worried about their business? Why do they want more? Why are they frustrated about this? So always ask, but why? And that's going to get you really to a level of understanding that is very different, because then you're not just, again, guessing, but you're also looking really further into why they are feeling the way that they're feeling.
Yeah, this is so powerful. What you're saying is basically, don't be afraid to check in with your audience, ask them the questions, because from what I'm hearing you saying, it feels like that the audience gives you the answers that you need to then sit down and write about it.
Basically, yes. And it's why also when I do copy for my clients, the first thing in my process is actually to sit down with that person and spend an hour with them, just chatting to them, understanding the kind of language that they use, because that's also very important. Understand the language that they use, understand the way that they define their own problems and the way that they talk about the solution, and understanding their emotion behind it. It's something so important, and your audience definitely has all the answers when it comes to copying.
Let's talk about the language now, because that's also another problem that I see a lot of people that are having or that are saying that they have, which is, but how should I write? Should I write in a formal way? Should I write in an informal way? Should I write as I talk? Should I write in a more, like, it can be quite confusing, because I remember, like, when we were at school, we were told, okay, you do the essay, and you have the formal essay, you have the informal essay, you have the day out with your parents, or whatever it is, right?
Yeah.
And so I think there is this conflict in people. What kind of writing style shall I use? What's your recommendation on that?
So again, it goes back to the audience. So I always say you can be as formal or informal as your audience is. So if you are talking to an audience that feels very informal, maybe they are, people that are not in corporations or whatever, you can be informal if that's the way that they are. If they swear, you swear. If they use slang, you use slang. So really adapt to your audience again. So that goes back to it. But also I think that there is another element to it, because of course you cannot just talk in the way that your audience talks, because that would also not make a lot of sense, I guess. But what you want to do is also really to think, okay, what kind of voice do I have, and how can I infuse that voice into my copy? So there is that sort of process that you can do of asking yourself, okay, what kind of personality do I have? So talk to your friends. That's something that I actually did in the beginning of my business. I was talking to my friends, and a lot of them were pointing out that I am a bit quirky, that I can be funny, I can say things with humor, I'm very nurturing. So I thought, yeah, that's pretty much me. And that's the kind of voice that I also want my audience to know.
Yeah.
So when I start writing for myself, for my own business, I always try and focus on, okay, am I coming across as nurturing? Am I still showing that quirky side, or am I adapting too much to the trends? Because sometimes it does happen. Maybe we see something and we think, oh, that's so cool, I'm going to try it. And usually just fails. That's not the way that it works. So always just make sure to ask yourself, what part of my personality do I want to show my audience, and how can I channel that inner voice into the writing voice? It's an interesting process, and it's something that will take time, but it's definitely something that you can do, and it will change your copy drastically.
Yeah, because so there is no more difference at that point from when they read about you or they read something that you wrote, and then when they meet you in person,
Yes.
then you are the same person. They are the same words. There are the same things that are coming out. So there is that level of consistency. In
Yeah.
fact, one of the things that I do when I write is just think I'm talking because I'm better at talking than writing. And that comes more natural to me. There are some
Yeah.
other people that's the other way around. They would prefer to write first and then talk about it. But I come out better with talking first and then writing second.
Yeah.
And so I'm basically thinking about I'm delivering a speech to my audience. So I'm talking one to one with one person, and then the words that are coming to me in that process. I'm writing them. So
Yeah.
that's the way that I found it works really well for me and my audience and my personality. And then everyone will have a different personality and different way
Yeah.
to come across. So
Exactly.
now I want to talk a bit more. If someone is a bit more advanced, let's say
Yeah.
now we have for our listeners that they've been writing for a while, and their pages are converting, but not too. But they can be improved.
Hmm.
When you are looking of something that is already working and to make it better from a copywriter point of view, or is someone I want to review one of my own pages, what would you suggest me to do in that situation?
First of all, start with a copy editing process. So read out loud whatever you've been writing and really let your brain do the works. As in, it's actually quite of a funny thing, but your brain can spot a grammar mistake or can spot if something is a little bit off without you really realizing why it's off. But your brain knows. So if you read it out loud, your brain will have that sort of awareness of, wait, something here is not really working. Let's see what we can do about it. So that's the first thing that you can do.
Oh, that's
Read
so
out
cool.
loud.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's very cool. And it works so well. And so the first thing that you can do is go ahead, take that copy, read it out loud, and try and see if something is off. If that's the case, just change it. The second thing that you can do is always ask yourself, can I say the same with less words? Because a lot of the times, the problem that I see when it comes to sales pages, for example, is that people try to say something in a very complex way. So we end up using 100 words for something that could be said in probably just about 60 or 50 words.
Yeah.
And that's really off-putting for the reader, because sometimes like we get so caught up in that confusion of words that it's like, okay, what are you even trying to tell
What's
me?
the point?
What's the
What's
point?
the point?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, and that's a very good way to just like change your copy and make it work better. The other thing that you can do is, again, just look at that emotion. So just to make sure that it's very, very strong from an emotional point of view. And then it's actually funny that you use this question, what's the point? This is actually a question that is key whenever we are writing. We always have to ask ourselves, what is my point? What kind of point am I trying to make with all of this? Because what you will realize is that something that we write often has about 3, 4, 5 points all in one. And that's so confusing for your reader. So sometimes you really just have to take a moment and ask yourself, okay, what's the point of this? Because then if you can just define that one thing that you really want to communicate, that's when actually your copy goes to the next level.
Yeah. So we mentioned now in terms of when we were talking earlier in the preparing for this interview, the importance of having a core message. So how can we have a core message, and how can we use that to be our differentiation point? And I think that there is a lot of talk now about, have your unique selling point, you need to have your core message. It becomes like a kind of cliche, but not many people know still how to find that bloody thing.
No.
It's like, okay, yeah, I understand I gotta have a core message, but how can I find it? So when you work with your clients, what's the process that you use to help them find their core message?
Well, it's a process that mostly makes my clients crying. I will just say that.
I know that's what happens in a lot of your sessions. It's like,
Yes.
I thought I was having a great time, but now I'm breaking.
No, exactly. That doesn't really work. No, but it's actually because what I'm saying with that is that I'm not mean. I'm just
So you're not beating them up.
No,
No,
exactly.
okay.
What I do with a lot of love and nurturing is that I always just make them think about why are they really into whatever it is that they're doing, and what is it they're trying to really communicate and change. And a lot of that again goes back to that silent layer of language, because the way that I see languages or cultures in general, I guess, is like an iceberg. So the way that we use our words, the way that we talk about things, is that tip of the iceberg that we actually see. But then the meaning behind every word and the meaning behind all the communication is usually the part underwater that we just do not really see at first.
Hmm.
So I always tell my clients, okay, you can say, for example, that the message that you have is, that, I don't know, somebody should do self-care and put themselves first.
Hmm.
But is that really what you're trying to say? What is the meaning behind that? What is, again, like that sort of emotional layer to it?
Yeah.
And what are you really trying to communicate? So there is, again, that sort of search, like, deep searching. And some people find it very confronting, because then actually they realize that it goes back to maybe something that they went through.
Hmm.
And that's the case with a lot of coaches, of course. Or maybe they realize that there is that one client that they helped that really changed the way that they were seeing the work. So
Hmm.
there is a lot of, ask yourself really, what is it you're trying to pass on, and what is that you're really selling? Because I can say I am selling copywriting, but that's not really true. The way that I see it is that I am selling the possibility to have a voice.
Mm.
And that's something much more powerful,
Yeah.
So, and when we talk about, there is a lot of talk about the messaging and whatever. But yeah, a lot of people struggle with it. And I think a lot of people still don't understand that because there is so much noise out there,
Hmm.
the only way to stand out is actually to have a strong message, a message that can help you connect emotionally on a deeper level with your audience. Because
Yeah.
if somebody feels understood, if somebody feels that there is that sort of empathy level and that they can trust you, that's actually when people will open
Hmm.
up to you and they
Hmm.
will buy from you. So that can become your differentiator, because probably if you have, like, I don't know, a marketing agencies, there are so many of those out there,
Yeah.
you know. But if somebody can actually see, hey, this person is different because maybe they have a different value or a different message, something that I can relate to, that probably they're gonna choose for that one particular person, even if there are thousands of other options out there.
Yeah, it becomes it creates a stronger and deeper connection.
Yeah.
And I was thinking about that actually yesterday, because I just finished to read I mean, listen, because I hate reading, but listening, Shoe Dog, which
Mm-hmm.
is the autobiography of Phil Knight, which is the co-founder of Nike.
Yeah.
And then immediately after, I started listening to a book of Seth Godin. So I was into this like marketing business side, and I was traveling back from a client meeting, and I was thinking about myself, but what is really GTeX about? Because I've evolved, things have evolved,
Yeah.
uh, and I was really thinking about, but what is really GTeX about? What is GTeX, and why GTeX
Mm-hmm.
exists in the first place? And I think that got me back into this kind of, like time travels where the time stops, and you can see if you imagine this in a movie, the music in the background, and I can see the light in front of me right now. And what I've realized is that GTeX has been built as a place to give people meaning.
Yeah.
Because when I was starting my business, I found my meaning, in the work that I was doing for others, in the work that I was doing with GTeX. And I found that a lot of people that we work with, the majority of the people that we work with, the work that they do is not just work. The
Yeah.
work that they do is an extension of themselves. They
Definitely.
actualize themselves through the work that they're doing. So what I really realized is that actually GTeX is a platform that is like the safe harbor for that helps those business owners that have been through challenges, that have not been spoon-fed with a silver spoon, and that had it right for a big part of their life, but they had to fight. They
Yeah.
had to go through the struggle to build that and to change their current situations, like yourself, like myself, and give them that space. And I think I realized that after, was I 6 years of running it? And it was yesterday. So this conversation comes exactly at
The right
moment.
Well, I think that's exactly what happens to a lot of entrepreneurs. So a lot of the people that come to me, they might be starting out. Some of them have been already in business for a while, and they feel that they are not sure about what their message is, and they go exactly through what you've described. And I think that to have that message is also somehow connected to your purpose as well. And it's always connected to, if you are aware of it, now you can communicate it better. And, and it's something so powerful. And it's something that I think, it's great that you find it out after 6 years, better late than never. But I think it's something that people should become aware of as soon as possible, because that's going really to make you stand out. And that's going to probably even change the direction that your business goes at one point.
Sure, I completely agree with you, and because I think in this scenario that I had, in my scenario, I had different purposes, and I knew what GTeX, like I had the why, but I'm be spending more and more time by myself and just thinking, and I think it just goes through different layers, and that's where it's like another layer went, and it's like, okay, so this is the reality, but we're not here to talk about that. I'm still quite fresh from the aha moment, so that's why I wanted to share. So, Rosie, before we wrap up, and thank you very much for the brilliant interview. Absolutely love it. It's time to lift the veil. It's time to lift the veil. That's the part of the show where I ask my guest to share something like a tool or an app or maybe a book that they've read recently that is making a difference right now in their life, on their business, and is worth sharing. So what's that for you?
Okay, so this is a very difficult question because I go through tons of stuff in my time. So it's like, okay, what do I pick actually? But if it comes to business, I will say something that it might sound very common in a way, but for me, it was very, very important to have at one point this app that is called Evernote on my phone. And I always tell to my clients to go ahead and use it because it gives you an opportunity to actually always just write down all those little notes and all those ideas, and you can even just talk into it. So, it just kind of records your speaking, and it just puts it into words. And it's so handy because especially if you're trying to create content.
Also, it transcribes as well.
Yes, exactly.
Oh,
so that's
so cool.
Great. Yes,
I didn't know that.
Yeah, it does. And it's so great. And you can even just have like recording notes, and it's just so handy because even if you have an idea, because I know that a lot of my clients struggle with that moment of, oh, I have this great idea, but now I cannot write. So what can I do? And this is actually something that I was going through myself at one point because I was constantly running from meeting to meeting. And I was like, oh, damn, I don't have my notebook with me. What do I do? So Evernote really changed that because now I can just write something down, jot down a title if I need to, make notes everywhere I am. Just, as I said, just speak to my phone like a crazy person. And that works really, really well. And on a personal level instead, I will tell you about this book that I've been reading recently, and it's called The Worry Trick. And it's actually a very, very interesting book. And it's something that, to be honest, it's a book that I bought for a friend of mine to give her as a present.
Okay.
And then I received it, of course, and I was like, ooh, actually, I'm reading it first. So I'm that bad friend, So I was going through it, and it's a very interesting book because it's actually about anxiety and stress. And I think that especially if you run a business, there will always be an overwhelming moment. There will always be a moment where you feel stressed, where you are anxious about something. Maybe sales are not coming in. Maybe you're frustrated because you cannot write, whatever that might be. And your brain is really, really great into tricking you into worrying and making that worse. And reading this book has been a little bit of an eye-opener for me because I used to struggle with anxiety. And probably till even like 1 year and a half ago, there were moments when I couldn't go out of the house. And it took me so much energy to battle through that. And it was a long path, and I did it, and I'm happy. But, to have such book, I thought, oh, wow, everybody should read this, because there is always that moment when we feel anxious about something. And that's a great read.
So it's The Worry Trick.
Yeah, The Worry Trick.
The Worry Trick. Okay, we'll put the links in the show notes of both Evernote, which is a tool that I use daily. Absolutely love it. And also The Worry Trick. I'm going to read it. I'm going to read it too. It's definitely fascinating.
Yeah.
So thank you very much for sharing, Rosie. Now, for everyone that wants to get in touch with you, that wants to work with you and say, I want a bit of what we call within GTeX, a bit of Rosie magic in in my life, where can they go?
They can actually just go to my Facebook, and they can find me, Rosie Di Lecce. That's where you will find me most of the time. You can drop me a message. And if you want, you can actually book a consultation with me. You can do it at bit.ly/callrosie. And then I'm going to share with you what the Rosie magic is. Sounds like, for some people, maybe quite scary, but it's actually quite cool.
It's not dark magic, I can say. I think it's a bit of a pink magic. You got a bit of a pink magic there.
There's a lot of glitter happening.
Glitter is a glittery and pinky.
But yeah, so you can just go ahead and book a consultation with me, and we can have a chat and see how I can help you.
All right, perfect. So all the links are going to be in the show notes, ladies and gentlemen. Rosie, thank you very much for being on the show. Definitely, it's been very powerful discussing different ways of copywriting and emotional copywriting. So thank you very much.
Thanks to you for having me. It was such a pleasure. I had tons of fun. Thanks a lot.
Oh, that's brilliant. And that's what we are like. We like to have fun. So if you want to have even more fun in your life, make sure that you subscribe to the show if you haven't done that yet, so you don't miss any other amazing episode. Connect with Rosie. And until next time, remember that together we grow exponentially. Bye for now.